the United States into a manufacturing powerhouse like it used to be many years ago. I always say tariffs is the most beautiful word to me in the dictionary. The tariff on tariffs. We do not wish to fight, but we are also not afraid of fighting. Many countries they've ripped us off left and right. But now it's our turn to do the ripping. $100 billion vanished. Intel never saw it coming. And the US still doesn't have a plan. But this wasn't a market crash or a bad earnings report. It was something far more calculated. On April 12, 2025, China quietly flipped a switch that sent shock waves through Silicon Valley. A single government order made without warning triggered the collapse of one of America's biggest tech giants. This wasn't just a chip ban. It was a warning shot in a global tech war. And the real story, it's not about what Intel lost. It's about what China is building and how fast the world is changing without the US in control. On April 12, 2025, something huge happened. But most people didn't hear it. There were no press conferences, no breaking news alerts. Just a quiet policy update from China's Ministry of Industry and Information Technology. But that single document hit like a bomb. It banned all government agencies and state-owned companies from buying chips made by US firms, including Intel, AMD, and Micron. No warning. No delay. Just a full stop. By the next morning, internal procurement systems in China were already rewritten. Major deals with companies like China Mobile, State Grid, and Huawei-linked server providers were suddenly cancelled. This wasn't just a ban. It was a message. And Intel, the biggest name in US chipmaking, was the first to feel it. Within 48 hours, its stock value fell by more than 18%, wiping out over $100 billion in market cap according to Bloomberg. But this wasn't just about money. It was about power. China didn't just unplug Intel. They exposed how deeply the company depended on Chinese buyers. The US may have built the chip industry, but now it looked like China was learning how to control it. And here's the scary part, this wasn't a one-off move. It was step one in a much bigger plan. For decades, Intel stood like a giant in the tech world, towering, powerful, untouchable. But what looked solid on the outside was already cracking underneath. By the end of 2024, nearly 27% of Intel's total revenue, $22 billion, came from China alone. That's more than 1 out of every $4. And when China pulled the plug, that lifeline vanished overnight. Unlike Nvidia, which had spread its business across global markets, Intel had tied itself to Chinese telecom and enterprise sectors, industries deeply linked to Beijing. That made it the perfect pressure point. China didn't need to launch a cyber attack or fight a trade war. All it had to do was stop buying. And Intel wasn't ready. Not even close. Years of technical delays had already cost Intel its edge. It stumbled badly on the rollout of its 10nm and 7nm chips while AMD surged forward, and tech giants like Apple and Amazon built their own custom silicon. Back in 2011, Intel owned 80% of the global PC chip market. By late 2024, that number had dropped to just 57%, according to IDC. Intel didn't just lose ground, it gave it away. Worse, the company failed to protect itself. Its business model was still built for a world where global trade worked smoothly. But that world no longer exists. And when Beijing made its move, Intel stood exposed like a castle built on sand. This wasn't a slip. It was a collapse waiting to happen. All it took was one policy. And the fall began. What looked like a chip ban was actually just the beginning. Behind the scenes, China had already drawn up a long-term strategy, one that goes far beyond punishing US companies. It's called Clean Silicon. And it's a bold plan to cut out all American-made chips from China's most critical systems. According to internal documents reviewed by Reuters, the goal is clear: by December 2027, no US semiconductors should be running inside China's public infrastructure, telecom networks, or energy systems. The countdown has already started. By early 2026, 80% of central government computing must run on domestically made chips. That means replacing companies like Intel with homegrown tech, fast. This isn't a trade response. It's a national mission. And the funding is massive. China is now pumping over $58 billion a year into its domestic chip sector, backing firms like Huawei, SMIC, and Lungen. The reason? Control. China doesn't want to depend on foreign tech that can be cut off at any moment. In their eyes, digital independence is as important as energy or military strength. And clean silicon is the blueprint. For Intel and other US firms, this isn't just a market loss. It's the forced retirement of their products inside the world's second-largest tech economy. And once China shows it can survive without them, what's stopping the rest of the world from doing the same? For years, Washington believed it held the master key to advanced chipmaking. Without access to cutting-edge tools like EUV machines, China was supposed to be locked out of the elite semiconductor game. But in September 2024, Huawei quietly picked that lock and shattered expectations. A teardown report by Tech Insights revealed that Huawei's new Mate 70 Pro wasn't just another smartphone. It was powered by a 5nm Kirin chip made entirely in China by SMIC. No EUV. No American tech. Just older DUV machines pushed to their limit with a complicated technique called multi-patterning. Once dismissed as too slow and inefficient for chips this advanced. But Huawei didn't care what experts thought. They made it work. And then they made it sell. In just 6 months, over 45 million Mate 70s were shipped across China, according to Canalys. That wasn't just a product launch. It was a public declaration. SMIC's revenue surged by 47%, while Intel's data center sales fell 22%, as confirmed in each company's Q1 2025 earnings. This wasn't a small step forward. It was China leaping over what the US thought was a brick wall. Huawei didn't just dodge the rules. They rewrote them. And if they can build world-class chips and phones without help, how long before they do it in AI servers and everything else the West still thinks it controls? China's ban didn't just hit Intel. It sent a shockwave through the entire tech market. As Intel's stock crashed, it dragged down major semiconductor ETFs like SOXX and SMH, shaking investor confidence across Wall Street. The PHLX semiconductor index dropped by over 4% in a single day, according to the Wall Street Journal. It was clear this wasn't an isolated hit. It was the start of something bigger. Inside Intel, the damage spread fast. In early 2025, the company announced layoffs of 1,250 employees, mostly in Oregon and California, as reported in SEC filings. These weren't just numbers. They were real people with families, losing their jobs as Intel scrambled to cut costs. And the pain didn't stop there. Major computer brands like HP and Dell are now planning 12% to 17% price hikes on upcoming models using Intel chips, according to leaked pricing roadmap seen by Bloomberg Tech. Why? Without China to buy chips in bulk, Intel has to raise prices to stay afloat. It's not just laptops, cloud hosting, enterprise servers, even AI hardware in healthcare and logistics, everything is getting more expensive. And soon, these rising costs will show up on your next invoice. The US isn't just watching quietly. In 2025, the government launched a major response through the CHIPS and Science Act, unlocking over $52 billion to support American chip makers. Intel was set to receive the largest share, $8.5 billion in grants and $11 billion in loans, according to the Commerce Department. The money was meant to fuel Intel's comeback, especially through its massive new factory in Ohio, nicknamed the Silicon Heartland. But there's a problem. The project is already behind schedule. Delays in zoning and construction mean the factory won't be fully running until late 2026, nearly a year later than planned. Meanwhile, TSMC is already preparing to produce 3nm chips in Arizona by the end of 2025. Intel has the money, but not the speed. And in this race, speed is everything. If you think this is only about Intel, think again. What China is doing goes far beyond one company or even one industry. It's building a whole new tech world, one that doesn't need the US at all. Analysts now say China's next move could be a full ban on exports of rare earth metals, gallium, and even AI training chips, materials that are critical for making advanced technology worldwide. This isn't just a chip war. It's a plan to redesign the global tech supply chain from the ground up. China isn't trying to catch up. It's trying to separate completely. According to Nina Song from China Money Network, Beijing's real goal is to create a tech system that works without American tools, patents, or influence. Intel may be the first big name to fall. But it won't be the last. Intel's $100 billion wipeout is just the first alarm bell. What we're watching isn't a business loss. It's a shift in global power. China isn't just replacing American chips. It's rewriting the rules of who gets to lead the future. As Beijing builds a self-reliant tech empire, the question is no longer if the US can respond, but whether it's already too late. The world is moving fast. And the stakes have never been higher. If this story opened your eyes, don't scroll away. Like, share, and subscribe for more bold breakdowns on the battles shaping our world.